Dive-In is a global movement in the insurance sector to support the development of an inclusive workplace culture. Since its inception in 2015, Dive-In has grown exponentially, and currently Dive-In events take place in 32 countries worldwide. This is the fourth consecutive year that IGI sponsors the Dive-In Festival. Why? Because at IGI, we believe that our responsibility goes well beyond our business. Our success over the past 2 decades is based simply on doing what's right for our people. We are spread over 4 continents and have 7 offices across the world. By our DNA, we are diverse and on all levels: gender, race, ethnicity, religion. At IGI, our culture is that of inclusivity, empowerment, and mutual respect. Every year, we organize events to shed light on diversity and inclusion generally, and on gender equality in particular. We partner with formidable and renowned organizations and people that have dedicated a lot of their time and effort to champion the cause. Over the years, we have sponsored, organized, and supported an array of events, including setting a Guinness World Record in France by playing in the longest soccer game on earth. All these events aim at shedding light on gender equality and the diversity and inclusion cause. We welcome you today to IGI's 4th Dive-In Festival for Diversity and Inclusion. We have an interesting speaker for you today, so sit back and enjoy the show. Hello everyone, and welcome from Amman, Jordan, where IGI is holding its Dive-In Festival for Diversity and Inclusion for the year 2021. In this year's Dive-In Festival, we have the honor and privilege to have a tête-à-tête with the renowned Jordanian, Palestinian, Arab movie writer and director, Najwa Najjar. We thought it would be a good idea to get insights from a successful woman who works in a male-dominated industry, the movie industry, much similar to the insurance industry, and get tips from her on how she succeeded and how to achieve and maintain success in her work. Najwa has worked in documentary and fiction for the past 20 years and has made her mark in Arab cinema. Her works include the critically acclaimed movie Pomegranate and Myrrh, and her award-winning movie, Eyes of a Thief. Her latest film, Between Heaven and Earth, won the 41st Cairo Naguib Mahfouz Best Screenplay. Najwa also is a jury member in international film festivals. She also gives directing master classes at universities. She has also given classes to refugees on set in Jordan and elsewhere. So, without further ado, welcome Najwa to the Dive-In Festival organized by IGI in Amman, Jordan. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a privilege to be with you.
Najwa, I said your bio. It's quite an impressive one, but I want to hear from you. So, who is Najwa Najjar and what is her alter ego?
Right, that question kept me up all night. Who is my alter ego? I'm a writer-director trying to make movies that matter, and trying to do 1,000 other things in the industry. But I realized that I'm also a very big part of my life is being a mom and trying to to cook and clean and take care of everyone. And I tried to find an alter ego for a super mom, if there's such a thing. But I think there's really not any room for anybody else at the moment in my life. So I'm a writer-director. I'm a mother.
A super mom.
No. And trying to be very good at what I'm trying to do, and trying to be part of a society and to contribute to culture, and to have cinema and to give hope and to give something to for future generations. So so that's kind of who I am.
That's very interesting, and that brings me to a question. That you've studied economics and political science,
yes,
and then decided to master in cinema. So that's a big change.
Yeah.
Why is that?
So a story, as usual. I have a Jordanian father and a Palestinian mother, but both were forced out of Palestine in '48. And we lived in the Arab world, and I went and I did my university studies in the US. And to study political science and economics in the US is not the smartest thing.
Why not?
We came to you're sitting there reading about your history, you're reading about yourself in the most horrific ways. And my concentration was Middle East and Latin American history and economics and politics. And so I decided it's one of two choices. Either I stay very angry at how we're portrayed. First it was the Arab world, and then it was Palestinians, and then they decided to make it into a religious issue between Muslims and Jews, and Muslims were very demonized. And when you demonize and you dehumanize, it's very easy to erase history. And it's very easy to erase the narrative. So I decided it's time to take back our narrative. As little as it is, as small as I can do it, I decided to do my master's in cinema. And I think it was the best choice I made in terms of education, because you have a tool and you have a weapon and you have a way to express yourself. So that's what I did. And then I met my husband when I was studying, and we came back to where it all is in Palestine. Yes. So there was 100 stories to be told. So yeah,
that's nice.
Yeah.
What do you think are the factors that contributed to your success as a movie first writer and also as a movie director? What do you think helped you most in succeeding?
I'm persistent. I have a hard head. I don't take no for an answer. I think that's one of the main things. I work very, very hard. And cinema is a lot of reading. You should be very well read. So I never feel I've read enough. It's watching a lot of different languages in cinema, watching the masters, seeing how emotions are portrayed, how to bring a story to life, and how to make that change from documentary to narrative. It's not an easy change, because you have to go more emotional, you have to talk about different things. So it's working very hard on yourself. And if you're a mother and you have children, you better have a good partner. I think part of the success is also having somebody who supports the journey. I think it's quite hard if you're working on yourself and you're trying to do everything by yourself. I'm not sure that I could have done it without a very supportive partner.
You know that this year's Dive-In Festival the theme is about allyship.
Oh, okay.
So I think we have kind of touched upon it. And
brilliant.
who do you think your ally has been so far? I mean, I'm getting that it might be your husband, partner.
Yes, he's been a great ally. But it's been a husband. It's been a society as well. It's been my mother and father. It was Allah yarhamu Baba, yani God bless his soul. Even when I first wanted to go and study cinema, it was this is 20 years ago. Oh, what? Your daughter's going to go study cinema? Who does that? And he was very supportive. My mom has been a tremendous support. A society. And I find that you have girlfriends and woman friends and male friends who are, they come and they watch and they talk to you and you hear their stories. And if you're part of a society and you listen, then I think by nature you start to have allies. I've met you recently. The more we talk to each other, I have empathy with you, you have empathy with me. There's a certain kind of kinship that starts to be established, right?
Right.
Do you agree? I mean,
I agree,
yes.
and I think you have to be also a sensitive soul. Maybe your emotional quotient has to be high. And I feel that with you, because when I met you today, I felt like I know you for a long time.
Yes, maybe.
And we just met, but it's just, you're so easy to talk to. I think you're compassionate, you have empathy. You've seen so many things, so much in our society that has made you aware of, the hardships, struggles that women in particular, but people
Society
in general,
yes.
society in general can face. So
yeah, I mean, it was quite going to live in Jerusalem after university, and this was at the start of the peace process, where there was hope and there was everything else, and you go to a place where there is occupation. I mean, there's no two ways about it. A wall was coming up. A wall is 8 meters high. It is 730 kilometers long. It does take away your sunlight. You walk every day, your heart is broken every day. And then you have to come, and you can't be a broken person. I think that's also kind of key, is that if you're broken, then you raise a broken family. Yes. Then you can't really contribute to anything. So you have to come back and smile and cook and or participate and read and play games and watch TV and go out, see other friends and talk about other things. So I think that all of this kind of builds a different way of thinking, of being, and to build culture and to be part of a society.
That's a challenge, because you need to have feelings, but you can't express them all the time. You have to have a positive attitude. Probably you have to be an optimist. Yes. I think you are an optimist because you chose to express rather than be angry, and that is just somebody who is an optimist and persistent, and of course your hard work. I think you're giving us an insight into what makes a successful female at work and at home. Yes. It's everywhere, and it's just wonderful to hear this.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask you a tricky question.
Ask me.
And the question is this: have you ever been outside your comfort zone? And how has that affected your career or life?
That's brilliant. Yeah. Well, I think when you're a filmmaker or when you're a writer, let's start with that, and you've seen the images of a story and a narrative being told almost exactly the same every time you turn on the TV, every time you look at, especially TV. TV has been very detrimental because they create boundaries. They create boundaries for you to talk in for the international world. And these are the boundaries that international audiences understand. And usually it's a checkpoint. And usually what they want is also for you to be balanced. And that means that when you say a Palestinian narrative or an Arab narrative, it should also be in line with an Israeli narrative. I decided no, I'm not going to do that, because for far too long everybody has told the Arab narrative, the Palestinian narrative, the narrative that comes out of the land from the people in their way. I am tired of seeing movies where the Arab home is empty, where we are shown as savages, where we are only as terrorists. Enough. Khalas, kafi. It's enough. So to break that takes going out of your comfort zone, because you may not be accepted in festivals. You may not be funded. You may not. And when you're starting, it's not easy. Because you do want success. You do want, our films, you don't want just to talk to your mother, father, brother, sister, and your community. You want to go a little bit further.
Yeah.
So it was trying to find a way of going out of your comfort zone. And I think what helps is that if you remain authentic, if you try to take things that are close to your heart, and if you speak from your heart and you base it on things that matter, then you have strength. And after we did our first movie, Pomegranates and Myrrh, which talks about imprisonment of first a woman, which talks about imprisonment of a dancer and imprisonment of a society without any comparison to the Israeli being imprisoned by Israel, it went to Sundance, it went to Rotterdam, Gothenburg, these huge festivals.
1 2 3 4
متأسف حبيبنا بدي أتجوز خايف أتأخر.
ما ينفعش كنا نعمل العرس في رام الله، لازم ننزل على القدس نعمله هناك.
حكيتك غيرت رأيك.
وأخسر أحلى شيء بحياتي.
So I think that you can find a way, but in every movie, and the second one, I pushed it further. I took a man who's a father, who's pushed into a corner.
It is eyes of a thief.
Eyes of a thief.
Okay.
How far can you be pushed as a parent before you pick up a gun and you shoot? And I think if you remain compassionate and you tell your story clearly and honestly, then it works.
ماما أروح تتجوز عادل.
In our last movie, Between Heaven and Earth, I took a love story about divorce, and it takes love throughout all of historic Palestine. So each movie, I'm way out of my comfort zone. Each movie, I just kind of go, okay, here we go. Here we go. And but now my real concern is that the Arab world, people here seeing it, if it goes internationally, brilliant. Why not? You know. But I'm really actually concerned with culture, with the Arab world, with the young generation. I think that they're, you know, dynamic and lovely, and
I want to ask you about
okay,
that because, you know, we have now the millennials,
Yes.
and now Gen Z are entering the work market, and I wanted to ask you how these generations, the millennials and Gen Zs, are different to previous ones, like mine and yours. Do you find them different? What are their characteristics in life and at work? How do you see their future in the movies?
Okay. I love both of these, the Gen Z and the millennials. I think they're great. I think they are smart, and they work on themselves, and they have alternative media. In some ways, I don't feel they're so different, because I think there was, between like our generation and the younger, there was a few lost, but people that, because of the situation, because of world politics, because of what the world was going through, it made people more cautious. Now, I feel they don't care. They call it, they have backup, they have alternative media, they talk clearly, they
have influence.
And they don't want the traditional. They don't want that 9-to-5 job. So I think they can be major changes in the world, major changers in the world, and they have their minds go into startups, so they think of the world differently.
You know what they're called? They're also called the reformers. You know that?
No.
Their
that's
other
so
name
good.
is reformers. So it's exactly what you were saying.
So good.
They're
Brilliant.
going to reform the world.
I see them as people who, they have to be given the chance. And in cinema, I'll give all my support, because they can do something. They speak the language that needs to be heard, and I love they're fearless, and I love it, and I support it. So yeah,
I'm so happy to hear that. Actually, even in insurance, you know, we are trying to attract the younger generation, because insurance is originally, when it started, it's about helping people. Yes. It's about a group of people getting together, putting small resources, and when then one party has a problem or an issue, then everybody goes and helps that person. So insurance is noble in its inception. And you know, Gen Zs and millennials, if they can see that aspect of our industry, I think they would be even more attracted to it, because it's not just, you know, insure the car or insure the house. It's really about helping people in their times of need, in floods, in fires, and we really hope that, you know, we can attract more of these reformers in our industry.
You know, Aida, when you first told me about this insurance company doing an event for my movie, you know, I have to say that I'm a bit really impressed that this is something that's being done for younger generations by an insurance company, and this participation in building culture is really what we need as filmmakers, to try and get our movies distributed, to have people to come and see the movie is a big effort. You are now participating with us in building culture, in bringing different points of views. cinema is quite important, and your participation in such an event makes me really proud to be part of this. So thank you for this.
Thank you very much. And we are also happy that you gave us the time and shared with us such interesting insights, and professional and personal. And they are quite, I think they'll be very inspiring for many of our audiences. I want to ask you, I heard that you are planning a new work.
Yes.
And I want you to tell me a bit about it, but also I had a question. I wanted to know, how do you cast? Because when you see these stars, these young people in your movies, how do you cast your cast in the movies?
It's a very interesting question. For all the aspiring filmmakers out there, after you get the script down, which takes writes and rewrites and rewrites, and you start to look at who the possible cast are, for most of my movies, I tend to take as long of a time to cast as I do to look for locations. If you find the right cast, 60% of the movie is set. So I try and do a long casting process where I either try to match, for example, in Between Heaven and Earth, the most important thing about the movie was the chemistry. You can have a great actor and a great actress, but if they have no chemistry when they're together, you've shot the movie to the ground. So it can't happen. So it was literally bringing an actor and actresses, several, and then you try them with several, you try them with several more. In Eyes of a Thief, it was with an Egyptian superstar, Khalid Abu Nagab. And this is, both these movies, Pomegranates and Myrrh and Eyes of a Thief, are on Netflix, so if people also want to see it there. Khalid Abu Nagab had said to me about 5-6 years ago, no, now it's more, 8 years ago, Najwa, when are we going to make a movie together? And he told me a story about his father going to Gaza and the love that he felt for Palestine. And I just went, okay, dude, you're a great actor. Your father was in Palestine. You have this great love for Palestine. He found letters that his father had written to his mother. And he had this heroic feel about him, that when he walked, you feel the earth, his feet on the ground. And really, I was looking for a hero, and he gave it to me. Saad Masi, who's a fantastic singer and a very dear friend, in Eyes of a Thief, she plays Layla. And I wanted somebody who's an outsider, who had adopted a child, again, breaking another taboo in Arab society. And I wanted somebody that had this gentleness, this something, I can't describe it. I just know that when I see it, it's there. But I do go through a long casting. Pomegranates and Myrrh, my first movie, it was so much casting, so long, at least 6 months usually. So the casting takes up a long time, and location is also very important. And I feel it's more important in Palestinian movies because people have been denied so much of their homeland. 750,000 were forced out in 48, 350,000 in 68. So I always try to focus on locations. So I take it this way, and especially in our last movie that we'll be screening tonight, Between Heaven and Earth, it's a trip throughout all of historic Palestine. And we shot in 25 days. It was throughout the whole country, nightmare, but that's something else. So that's how I go about the casting and locations, and they usually go hand in hand.
When I was talking to you earlier, you told me that you're interested in music, and
Yes.
music is an important part of your movies.
Yes.
So tell
Okay.
me a bit about that.
Kind of grew up in a house that has a lot of music and books and storytelling. So it started there. My mother, mostly, she loves music, and my father. So we kind of grew up with that. And then when it came to my first documentaries, and it was the very first documentary I did about my grandparents, my uncle is quite a famous pianist. And I was trying to recreate the Palestine they left behind. So I had my uncle play Artatum, I had them play the music of the time. And I started to realize the importance of music, how it reflects the feeling, how it reflects character, how it reflects the place. I was incredibly lucky in Pomegranates and Myrrh to have Michael Dana, who is the one who did The Life of Pi, who's unbelievably lucky to have this man, and very dear friend now, who did my first movie. On my second movie, it was Tamer Karawan, who did the music. He did the Yes Khoury movie. So he was also perfect for the film. And in our last movie, what we did is that nobody from the Arab world was allowed into Palestine to work on the film. So what I did was I made a bridge through music, because it's a road movie. And what's the first thing you do when you get into a car?
Listen to music.
So it's a whole soundtrack of really alternative, mostly Arab women from Tunis, Lebanon, Palestine, Algeria, Egypt. So I tried to make a bridge of music through the musicians that were on the radio or playing. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so.
But I want to hear about your new
Musical.
movie, because I think it's so exciting.
Yes.
What you have up your sleeve.
So it's called Kiss of a Stranger, قبلة غريب. And it's been my fascination with Alexandria in the 1930s. So it's been an obsession for a while. During COVID, everybody was upset. I'm like, great, you're locking us in, I can write. So it was great. So I took out my old scripts and I started to rework them. And I took the advent of cinema in Alexandria, where cinema in the Arab world actually started.
Okay.
And you had these pioneering women and men who not just broke taboos, shattered taboos, who took risks, who did so much to start the cinema industry. And then you had the British Mandate, which was oppressing the people, and so you have two parallel universes. And you had the most cosmopolitan city. When Europe was destroying itself, everybody was coming to Alexandria for this most amazing cosmopolitan city. So I created a story, and it'll be contemporary, but it's set in the 1930s. And it takes the dancers and revolutionaries and immigrants and the making of cinema within cinema. So
when
that's in a nutshell.
when will you release this movie?
We're trying to finalize now the funding process.
Okay.
And we're casting for our stars. And I've done a bit of location scouting. So if things work out, hopefully within a year and 2 months.
So Najwa, thank you. I think we've covered so much in so little a time. But I want to ask you one last question, and you can take a few moments to think about the answer.
Okay.
If you wanted to give one advice to a working woman, what would that be?
A working woman trying to enter the filmmaking business?
I think a working woman trying to succeed.
I think you take a plunge, you hold your breath, and you will come out at the other side. And if you come out at the other side and the door is closed, there's a window. And if that window is closed, you go up to the roof and you jump in the chimney and you find a way. And ultimately you will. You will come out at the other side and you will take that breath and it will happen. But I think it's being absolutely sure, determined, and persistent. And don't let anyone ever tell you you can't do it, because you can.
So it's the leap of faith we need to take. Najwa, thank you so much for this inspiring and eye-opener interview. I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure our audience must enjoy it, because it's just amazing. I think all us women out there in all the fields that we're working at can get some tips, some ideas, some inspiration from Najwa. We wish you the best of luck in your upcoming movie, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you everybody for being part of Dive In 2021. And we hope to meet you next year with Dive In 2022. I leave you now with memorable moments at the movie theater with the IGI family at the screening of the movie Between Heaven and Earth.